Hi, everyone. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Deliberately Intentional. These two Dear Auntie Remi questions are about choosing a therapist. Let's get right into it. Dear Remi, I'm 50 and my wife is 57, and I live in New York City. We've been together for 15 years and married for 10. Recently, we've felt stagnant and disconnected. We want to grow together, not perpetuate unhealthy patterns. How can we find a therapist who emphasizes relational growth over individual faults and set collaborative goals for our therapy journey? Considering our stage in life near retirement, what specific strategies can we use to reignite our passion and purpose together? Hmm. Well, first things first, thank you for writing this in. This one's not necessarily a dear answer to me because we're roughly the same age. But how about I tell you something really weird? We're in therapy as well. And like it or not, how did I find our therapist? I was very, very specific about what I wanted. I wanted somebody that was older, not because I can't learn from young people, but I specifically wanted somebody older than me because I feel that they have more wisdom to give me. I know a lot, but I want somebody that knows more than me. So, what questions? First, I was looking through their profiles and I looked at their ages. I wanted a male because I felt that for my husband, more so than anyone else, he doesn't have a lot of male figures. I've got tons of female figures in my life that are always sewing into me. But if you notice, most men don't necessarily have a lot of that. They'll have boys on their level, they'll have a lot of younger ones, but not a lot of it. And I know my husband as well, his dad has passed away, and there are no uncles that he's really super close to. So there's an absence there. So I was really specific about finding somebody that he could connect with. So I chose somebody male. I don't know what the dynamic is in your relationship. If you have a lot of um, older male figures that are impacting your life, or maybe your wife needs more older female figures impacting her life, but that's kind of how you would choose. That's the first thing I would say. Then the second thing I would say regarding choosing, you have to think about if it's disconnecting that is your main issue in stagnation, then you need to make sure that that's something that person in their profile, in the little blurb that they put up about what they do, you have to make sure that's something that they say they do. So for us, I can say that some parts of it was communication, some parts of it is like, just letting things go, not on my part, mainly on my husband's part, but I also just wanted someone to be able to weigh in because I feel like I do a lot of talking and it would be great for somebody else to do the talking. So I was intentional about finding somebody that can talk the talk and it just is not me. It had to be somebody else. So you find what it is that you feel the issue is, in your case, this stagnation thing, and make sure that that person, when that in that initial call, ask these questions like, how would you advise a couple to reconnect? Listen to what they say. If you get the receptionist, most times, or whoever is doing their scheduling, most times the therapist will call you back and then ask for a little bit of detail about your story, ask about what's going on. Please be honest. I can't emphasize enough. There's no point in hiding from your therapist or your coach, because that is something I do. But don't hide from them. Tell them exactly what's going on, because if you tell them what's going on, then they can help you. If you don't tell them the truth, you're going to be running circles around yourself and you're going to feel like you're not getting anywhere, but it's because you're only giving them so much. Some of them will know how to ask you more detailed questions, but in that initial conversation, you need to be as honest as possible. There's nothing you can say that will shock them. And this is not about, you know, blaming each other or pointing fingers at each other. It's about finding a solution. The mere fact that both of you are open to getting therapy means you're ahead of the game, because usually one person is open to it and the other person is not. So you're well on your way. Hang in there. Does therapy help? Absolutely. You need to have a sounding board, someone that's not just the two of you talking. That is not only for when you have arguments. I actually feel like, just as I go to the doctor every year for my wellness check, you need to do the same for your marriage or your relationship. Even if you're just starting with someone and you feel like it's going somewhere, you need to make sure that you're asking the right questions. And if you don't know whether you're asking the right questions, that's where therapy comes in. So let's say you're getting engaged. Because I think that when you get to that engagement type phase, yeah, that's when you're realizing that, this is going somewhere. Because don't start dating somebody yesterday and then say that you want to go to therapy today. That makes absolutely no sense. But once you've established that this relationship is going somewhere, I wish I had started therapy a long time ago. But again, I'm 50 years old and it was not very popular back in the day. But now that we're doing it and we were good before, we've just gotten even better. So if you're in a crisis, and even if you're not in a crisis, you do need to have other people weighing in. Another set of eyes has always helped in other regards, in business projects, in looking at your interior decor, in your health, in everything. So why aren't you doing the same? Why aren't you getting another set of eyes on your relationship to make sure that it's actually as good as you think it is? Because again, not everybody is self-aware. Our next question is, Dear Auntie Remi, I'm 32 and my husband is 55. We live in LA. We've been married for 5 years, but our 23-year age gap has started to show its effects. After a painful argument 6 months ago, we can't seem to reconnect. We've tried apologies, forgiveness, and date nights, but the emotional distance remains. Do you think couples therapy will help us? Absolutely. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. You both have an underlying issue. You mentioned the age gap, but you didn't go into details about what exactly it was. So I'm gonna guess here. What usually happens when there's a big gap like this is the older person feels like, I know everything. This person is so young. There's very little you're going to tell me that's going to make a difference to anything. Now, if I'm guessing a little bit more, I would also say that you being young, because every young person's a whippersnapper, you probably said something that he cannot forgive, that he found super insulting, and he couldn't quite let go of. Because that's another thing, is when an older person dates somebody so young, there's a reason why they're doing that too. They want that respect and they don't want it to shift ever. They didn't date somebody on their level who they could have these direct face-to-face conversations that are actually going to talk about, that we're going to argue about things and we're going to both come to a conclusion. They're dating younger because they don't want to have to deal with that. So if you're opinionated, which I'm guessing you might be, I don't know, because you didn't say too much, but I'm guessing that you might have said something and he can't forgive that. There's very little, being that he's older, I'm sure you've forgiven a lot of things because, again, you also are the person that dates somebody older is also looking for something. You were looking for a daddy figure or a mommy figure. That's the indicator that comes when you date older, or else you would date somebody within your age range. And again, there's no judgment here. You can date and marry whoever you want, but there's just something that it kind of shows a little bit of a gap when we see it. So what I would say to you, yes, therapy would help. Get somebody that is older than him. So that means you need to get somebody that's 60 and above. And I say that because if you guys are having issues communicating with each other right now, if you get somebody younger, he's going to disregard everything that person says. And you're not going to be very successful. You need to get somebody that he is definitely going to respect, but you also need to vet the person first to make sure the person has heard you, understands you, and has a way to get whatever it is that you need to say to your husband across to him. After he's helped you finesse it and helped you massage that message, then you might have a chance at success at this. But that's the key. That's what I would say. Your therapist has to be older than your husband. Don't go and get a therapist that is your age and you're thinking that, okay, the person's going to side you, because it's not going to be successful. You can go and get yourself a separate therapist for yourself, and that person can be your age mate, because like it or not, you don't want to feel alone in this situation. So you might feel, oh, this person is really on this person's side. That's not why you're doing this. You're trying to be successful in choosing somebody that is going to get your message across to your spouse. Super important. So you have to be very intentional about this and about how it's going to help elevate your relationship and cause, your road to smoothen out versus it being so bumpy right now. Hang in there, okay? Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. Please keep these questions coming. You can email your question into contact at d3libr8.com. Thanks, everyone.